What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I'm Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are looking back at 2023, and we're choosing our top 5 A24 projects of the year.
We made it, Ben. We made it to the end of the year, dude. 2023 is almost over. How are you feeling?
It's crazy. I can't believe it's already over.
Yeah.
But I feel like this gets said every single end of the year. It's like, I can't believe we're already here. But yeah, I can't believe we're already here.
Yeah. It's been a big year for movies, I think. And we're going to kind of deconstruct a little bit, obviously, with our focus on A24. This is our last A24 themed pod for like the next 12, 13, 14-ish weeks.
Yeah.
We've got
to see you in April for A24, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I think so. I think because by the time that we're doing a full Oscar switchover, and I know we've kind of been prepping this for a few weeks with our listeners and things like that. And we've actually got the first episode recorded and in the bag and feeling pretty good. I've got to be honest. I feel less confident about our pick for Best Picture every day. So I don't know what that means, but we're very excited about the Oscars. And so by the time that we do our 10 Best Picture nominees and do our reaction to the Academy Awards and do a breakdown pod and then do maybe like a week later a more grounded take on what happened, I do think we're looking at like an April for an A24 comeback, man.
Something like that. I mean, that's the way to go, I guess, so let's commit a fourth of the year to the Oscars. I think it's going to be fun. I think people enjoy those episodes a lot. They seem to do pretty well. So I think everyone else is excited for us to talk about them too.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. Like I said, we got the first episode in the bag, Barbie, and we have a great guest. I don't want to reveal too much because it's coming. It's coming next week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't have to wait that long. But before that, we have a really special conversation with Clayton Davis, the senior awards editor of Variety, back to kind of talk about the Oscars. You excited for our convo with him?
Oh, I can't wait. I love having Clayton on. Like, his insight is amazing. Especially, I'm going to say it, his off-the-record stuff, always a lot of fun to hear him talk about, so I'm excited.
That's true. He does always give me a very hard time about Babylon, so I got to respect that.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, sure. Okay, whatever you say. I will be honest with you. Let's take a side beat really, really fast. So I watched Saltburn last night. You recently watched Saltburn as well. I asked you what you thought about it, and you were like, I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the 2023 draft on the movie pod, or the movie draft pod. Which, like, fuck you, I guess. Like, I really want to know your thoughts.
It's totally fair. Yeah.
But, so, anyway, that's coming in the future. My point is that I watched Saltburn last night, and you know what I thought? And I've thought this over the past few days. I've been trying to cram in the end of, like, my 2023 watches, right? Trying to get them on the list. And I've thought over the last few days, like, dang, that was kind of a bummer of a movie. You know what would be good? Maybe I'll just toss on Babylon, and that'll make me feel better. And that's how I know I'm a true psychopath.
Yeah. I mean, other than seeing Oppenheimer 7 times in theaters, giving you almost a literal day of your life to one
more watch to go. One more watch to go.
Crazy to me. But yeah, the love for Babylon is right up there with it.
Oh, man. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Babylon on the movie draft pod. That's for sure. Maybe every episode. We'll see. That pod is coming. We're both very excited about that. But let's talk about A24 in 2023. Pretty big year for A24, especially going into the Oscars. Maybe we'll talk about it, break down, give some thoughts. A24 released 21 movies this year that I counted, that Wikipedia has, versus the 19 in 2022. How was 2023 for A24, Ben? What's your take on the year as a whole for the company?
I think it was a pretty solid year. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff that came out this year. I don't think anything, it's hard to even think back on Everything Everywhere All at Once, like not being a front runner, because I think we were all a little surprised by it winning. But I feel like there's nothing in this lineup this year that's like, all right, this is totally going to take this award or whatever, which is an interesting departure from last year when we were like equating everything to Everything Everywhere and how well it's going to do. But overall, I still think there's a lot of really good stuff here. There's some highs and some lows personally, my poor Beau is Afraid just like not working for me is still a bummer for me. But
can I ask you real quick on that front? Because now that Beau is Afraid did make an Oscar shortlist, and I believe it was for makeup and hairstyling. Have your thoughts on Beau's Afraid changed at all? Have you revisited it?
I have not revisited it, so my thoughts haven't changed. I think I said it before when we actually talked about the movie. Like, I'm curious to rewatch it and see what
Yeah.
it does to my perception of the movie, since I'll understand or expect what's going to be coming,
Ah.
and just see if that changes how I feel about it. But as of now, no, my feelings are just the same level of disappointment,
Just sad boy
just
Ben.
sadness. Yeah, yep.
That's too bad. Um, yeah, I think my thoughts on Beau is Afraid have changed, even though I haven't rewatched it. Which I think is interesting. 2023 for A24, I I feel like it was really a year of like a few shining stars and like the rest being kind of mediocre, to be
Mhm.
honest. Because we do talk about the Beau is Afraid, which it's like very massive in like the film Twitter sphere and like
Yeah,
being talked about of like what is it? What does it mean? What does it mean for A24? What does it mean for Ari Aster? What does it mean for original content? Like all of these kind of extra questions that come with it. And then you got Past Lives. I'm sure we're going to talk about Past Lives and its potential Oscar run and things like that. The Zone of Interest, the Iron Claw, picking up a lot of steam pretty late in the game
Mhm.
here. But then you have movies that are like, I don't know, like Sharper. Is it okay? I think like when we talked about Sharper, we were just like, it's perfectly okay. And that was
Yeah,
like the greatest description that we could describe it. Like you get movies like Medusa Deluxe. I think both of us a little disappointed in Medusa Deluxe. You get Dix the Musical. I don't know. It kind of like came and went very, very quickly and like nobody talked about it at all. So I feel like you get a lot of highs and lows with
for sure.
2023 for A24.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Like, I just think the way I was going to compare it, to last year
Mm-hmm.
is that I feel like um I liked more stuff last year, 2022. I think I enjoyed more of their movies last year,
Mm-hmm.
but I liked stuff more this year, if that makes sense. Like the highs were
Oh, sure.
high, but again, the
The
lowers
lowers
were
were
low.
lower.
Like nothing hit me last year. I mean, Everything Everywhere Aside, that's like a very special film, obviously,
Right.
but nothing else hit me like Iron Claw or Past Lives or Close. Like there's some super fun stuff. Like I made a list of some of my favorites. Obviously, we had Pearl and X,
Mm-hmm.
After Sun, Marcel, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Like there's a lot of good stuff that came out last year
Don't forget Men
that I really liked. Men,
from
obviously,
the
save the best for
famed Alex
last.
Garland.
Yes, exactly. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I liked a lot of stuff last year, but I think I liked things more this year.
That's totally fair. I quickly just want to shout out. So 2022, you're right. I think there were more hidden gems in
Hmm.
2022. I think is kind of like what we established. So like After Yang, a movie that
Yeah.
honestly not a lot of people talk about that is quite good. I think Bodies, Bodies, Bodies you mentioned is like kind of this cult little hit. I know a lot of people liked Funny Pages. I was very cold on Funny Pages
Hmm.
last year. I think a lot of people enjoyed that. Obviously movies like Stars at Noon, After Sun, these things kind of had a big Causeway ended up being a big
Yeah.
Oscar contender, which was kind of crazy because I don't think that really happened. And then something we've never talked about on the pod before. Can I just quickly ask, like, we've had conversations offline about this of like, what should we cover this or not? Apparently, White Noise is an A24 production. The
Yeah.
Netflix movie from Noah Baumbach starring Adam Driver, like that, and Greta Gerwig. Apparently, that is listed as an A24 film.
And maybe that's on us, but the fact that we didn't even cover that because we didn't realize it was an A24 film, I think says a lot about it. That it just wasn't very prominent that it was an A24 film. It didn't
Yeah,
feel.
super, super weird. So here are the 21 movies that were released in 2023. I want to say them all, and then I have some more questions for you. So when you finished the Saving the World, January 20th, 2023, that came out of Sundance
Mhm.
a year ago. Now that we're recording, almost 2 years ago. And I think that was interesting because that's Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut.
Yeah.
And it felt very Sundancey. And I think that was the second time I saw it. And I think the sheen had maybe worn off a little bit. But I think not a bad way to start the year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was fine. You know what I mean? It was interesting. I think I was colder on it than you were. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
love
yeah. I
it,
think
but
so.
it's also just like it's a directorial debut. Making movies is hard.
But
Like I don't want to shit on it too much, you know. But it just, yeah, I don't know that it was completely for me.
that's okay. That's fair. That's fair. Then we get Close on January 27th. That was part of the
Oof.
2023 Oscar lineup. That was nominated for Best International Feature Film from Lucas Daunt. I know that's one of your favorite movies of like in the time that we've been doing the pod, basically.
Yeah, that movie fucked me up big time. I love that movie a lot. And it's yeah, it was surprising to me where this fell on my top 5 of the year because this movie did
Ah,
like it meant a lot to me for sure.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're gonna be doing our top 5 of the year, obviously, and then we have some interesting A1 acts that I kind of want to
Yeah.
kind of took a little inspiration from some other people around the horn, and we're gonna go through those. Sharper, February 10th. That just fucking straight to Apple TV Plus. Nobody really talked about it. Kind of a bitchin' cast,
Dude.
honestly.
Yeah.
What happened with that movie?
I feel like Dirty Laundry ended up on my Spotify Wrapped because of this movie, you know, because of that bar scene. It's like, fuck yeah,
Yeah.
the song rips, you know, like let's listen to it. So yeah, I don't know. It was a, like you said, I think we both called it perfectly okay.
Yeah.
It's a movie that had some really good scenes, but for the most part was just like, all right, that's a
Yeah.
movie. Cool.
Might not be done talking about that movie yet
Yeah.
on this episode. I'll just throw that out there. Pi got the Darren Aronofsky film, got a re-release on March 14th. Interesting that A24 decided to re-release 2 films this year. And one of them not Pi. The other one stopped making sense.
Yeah.
Ended up being a big phenomenon, like a pretty big box office driver. Showing up April 7th. Can I just quickly ask you, have you, I think we were both like lukewarm on
Mhm.
Showing Up, but both of us liked First Cow quite
Yeah.
a bit. Both Kelly Reichardt films.
Mhm.
Have you rethought about Showing Up at all? Because I've seen it popping up on people's like most underrated movies of 2023 or top 5 of the year lists, and people are kind of coming out of the woodwork and being like, yeah, I've been on the Showing Up train for a long time, and I just don't think that's been the case for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've just chalked it up to I'm just not smart enough for it. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what it is. Like I think it is a good movie. I think overall, I don't think either of us were negative on it. I think it was just like, yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. There's some good performances, but I maybe wasn't seeing what everybody else was seeing with this.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair. The more I think about it, the more I like it, but it did not make any like top lists for
Yeah.
me. I'll just say. Okay, we get the much maligned Beau is Afraid, April 14th. You Hurt My Feelings, May 26th. Past Lives, June 2nd. I'm gonna start rolling through these because I'm realizing we're gonna be talking about a lot of them.
Yeah, we are.
Earth Mama, July 7th. All movies that we've pretty much covered. I think we did a pretty solid job of covering most things that are widely available this year. We'll just put it that way. The Deepest Breath, July 19th, followed by Stephen Curry, Underrated, on July 21st. Both streaming films. I believe The Deepest Breath went to Netflix. Stephen Curry went to Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
This was in the heat of the strikes. We did not cover them on the pod out of our conscious decision to not shed light on the streamers and the companies that actors and writers were fighting against, essentially.
Yeah.
Did you watch either of these movies in your free time?
No, I still haven't watched either. I'm like the Deepest Breath thing almost freaks me out. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
I'm
it's
way
just
too
like,
scared to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
No.
I thought I had a fear of heights, but just thinking about what these people do, it's like, oh, that's crazy. Like, can't come up too fast, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, these were like the two new movies this year that we didn't cover. Although A24 movies we were able to talk about because they did come to an agreement with the actors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We just didn't feel right with Netflix and Apple TV like covering those. So yeah, I think those are two of the main ones that we didn't cover this year.
Yeah, I think those are two of the biggest ones. I did happen to watch Stephen Curry, Underrated. I'm not a big basketball guy. I think I'm a very casual fan. I do like a good documentary, and I even more so love a good sports documentary.
Okay.
This was not it. Let me just that's my 2 that's my 2 cents on that one. Talk to Me, July 28th, the horror movie of the summer. Medusa Deluxe, August 11th. Stop Making Sense, the next re-release kind of 4K remastering that we still don't know when it's coming to physical. Get it together, A24.
I haven't bought Talk to Me or Stop Making Sense because I just feel like they're gonna release it at some point. I know Talk to Me is out and you can buy it, but I'm like, no, I don't want
No,
to. Just like I did with Everything Everywhere, buy 3 versions of it. Like I just want them to release their version so I can buy that one.
I
I don't
know.
know.
I you can buy Stop Making Sense. You can like find a DVD
Mhm.
of it. I want the 4K resolution. That's
Yeah.
what I want. And
Yeah.
they could put it up for $40 and I would just buy it right now. So
Mhm.
we got to get it together. Dick's the Musical, October 6th. That's one that you missed this year.
Yeah.
You were not on that pod. I ended up seeing that movie, and maybe we'll talk about it in a little bit. Priscilla, October 27th. All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt, November 3rd. This was also out of Sundance in 2023. Not a huge, like a widely available movie as far as I'm aware, at least like theatrically. It might be streaming somewhere right now, but not something that we covered.
I would say, yeah, we didn't get to it because I don't know that either of us got it. Like felt like it was pretty limited. And if it did go wide, it was for a week or something. Like I don't remember seeing it here in Salt Lake at all.
Yeah. Very interesting. So if you look on Letterboxd right now, I'm looking and it's not available anywhere. Like I have all my streaming services in there and I have quite a few. And it's not playing anywhere. So I wonder if you can maybe buy that on Apple TV Plus or something. Dream Scenario, November 10th. The Zone of Interest was a technical December 15th release. Something we've not yet covered on the show. Haven't had the chance. I got the chance to see it at New York Film Festival. Ben, you haven't seen it yet.
Correct.
Because it did only go to New York and LA so far. And it's just like not coming out. Is now a good time to like just briefly for 1 minute air our A24 release schedule grievances?
It's like, I mean, we've done it so much. It's so hard. Like we will make a calendar, we will make our schedule. And I don't know how many episodes we end with. I think we're talking about this next week, but I don't know. Like It's so hard. Again, if anybody from A24 or anybody who has connections to A24 is able to get us some screeners here so we can review these movies that we love.
Yeah.
For the most part, we enjoy every single film we watch and we want to keep talking about them. But stop making it so difficult, please.
This is our plea to A24. Please just
this is what I want for Christmas.
Yeah, send us screeners or like let's just release the movies a little bit. I think an interesting let's put a very brief pin in that conversation because the next one on the list is The Iron Claw. Had a wide release on December 22nd. We were both able to see it, talk about it, covered here on the show. A lot of talk going around about like A24 bungled it with The Iron Claw because it could have been an awards contender. I think let's put a pin in that when we talk, and we'll talk about Oscars here in a minute with Past Lives and other things. Is that fair?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. And then the last movie of the year, Occupied City, also an extremely limited release on December 25th. I know very few people that have seen this movie, really only playing in New York, and neither of us live in New York. So,
and that's a documentary from Steve McQueen, right?
I believe so. I've heard it's very, very good.
I mean, an amazing director. So, that's unfortunate.
Yes. A bummer, for sure. So 21 movies released in 2023. And we talked about the difference between 2022 and 2023. Do you think that you and did we get anything wrong this year? Did we go into a movie and maybe say like, take Beau is Afraid, for example. I know we talked about that for a brief second, but like, oh, this isn't very good. And now that we're thinking about it, maybe it actually is pretty good. Is there any movie that stands out on this list as like, we should probably reevaluate?
I think, to speak to Beau, I think I admitted it on the episode that I'm at fault here because like I went in expecting the trilogy to Hereditary and Midsommar. You know what I mean? I was ready for the next thing. And so when I wasn't getting that, I just wasn't in the mental place to like accept the movie for what it was. So I never want to say Beau is a bad movie. I always try to reiterate, like, it just didn't work for me, but that's my own fault. So I am curious to go back and see what I would do for that. Honestly, like the only thing I think I would rate differently is I would put Past Lives higher. I gave it an A24. I would just give it an A plus 24. I don't know why I was like, feel like I had to reserve it, but that's the only thing I think I would go back and change because like it's, one of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I know in the past, we've very publicly said here on the show that we are just like not good at keeping track of what we rate movies, and what we think of films. We've cleaned that up a little bit, which is pretty nice. And so I'm looking back here and trying to figure out movies from this year specifically that I think are worth going back. We did have a good chance to like go back into the A24 catalog and cover things like In Fabric, Mississippi Grind. Like, we had a lot of good kind of hidden gems, I think, that we covered here in the show.
Yeah.
I think for me, if I'm going back, I might have been a little harsh on Priscilla. I think it didn't strike me quite the same way it struck a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And maybe I was just expecting too much. Maybe I'm not used to Sofia Coppola, and I was just kind of wanting a little bit more out of that. Will I ever revisit it? Maybe. I don't know. Like, we'll see. But I think I might have been a little harsh, but I do feel pretty good about where I landed with everything this year. I got to be honest, not to toot my own horn, but I feel pretty good.
I think we've established that you don't like women, so I think that's understandable with the whole Priscilla take on that for sure.
That's fair. Yeah. Mantra of the pod.
yeah, exactly. No, I mean, jokes aside, I think Sofia Coppola is a great director, and I think it's just she has a very distinct style. So I think it depends on your relationship with her films and how you receive everything, but that's totally fair. Like I said, we all got different tastes.
Speaking of me hating women, let's talk about a movie that really only has all guys in it.
Let's do it.
The Iron
Oppenheimer?
Claw.
Oh, okay.
Really, yeah, only white guys, please.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer. So let's talk about The Iron Claw. I know we put a pin in our kind of Oscars tie-in here for a second. Next week we're starting Oscars. We have our preview chat with Clayton Davis. We have Barbie kicking us off for the first episode of kind of the 10 Best Picture nominee season. A lot of people saying that The Iron Claw, Zac Efron should be Oscar nominated. We should be looking at technical awards, editing, cinematography, things like this. We have not really broken that part of the conversation about the movie down. Do you think A24 might have bungled it a little bit with either the release schedule or kind of the amount that they maybe entrusted to The Iron Claw? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm curious what their thought process was behind it. If they didn't expect it to get the reception that it did, because I mean, I feel like they obviously believed in it if they gave it a Christmas release, because you want to put stuff out then when people are going to movies. But it's just kind of surprising they didn't even bump it up to a Thanksgiving release, I guess, to get a little bit more awards time. I feel like it could have used that, because I can't think of, just going back and looking at the reviews that have come out about this movie, has anyone disliked Zac Efron? Like, I think everyone's just like, this is the best performance he's ever given. Like, you've got to give him some recognition here. And it's like, why not bump it up just 1 month? Because they didn't put anything. That's the other thing. It's like, in 10 days, we got Zone of Interest, The Iron Claw, and Occupied City. Like, we got 3 movies in 10 days. And the movie before that was November 10th. So it's like, this seems like a perfect Thanksgiving release. Like, why didn't this just get bumped up a little bit before some of these nominations go out, before people start voting? I don't know. It just felt like there was time for it. Obviously, it's easy for us to sit back and watch and just be like, oh, you guys should have done this. But I am curious what the reason is, like, why it didn't happen, because I'm afraid it's going to miss out on some stuff that it should be qualifying for.
I think it raises an interesting question, and I want to tie this into past lives, because this has the potential to be a Best Picture nominee. It's got a lot of underlying dark horse energy with a Best Actress, a Best Supporting Actor, a Best Director, things that could happen. And I feel like, at least for the last few years, I mean, going all the way back to Moonlight, you have A24. I mean, you got Moonlight in 2018, you got Minari in 2020, you've got Everything Everywhere All at Once last year, 2022, you have Past Lives this year. It feels like A24 kind of puts all their eggs in one basket for the year. They choose one movie and they're like, this is the A24 representation of that movie, or at the Academy Awards, excuse me. This year is interesting because we do have the Zone of Interest in the conversation. Might be nominated for Best Picture. Jonathan Glazer might pick up a Best Director. So this year could be identifying that, like, that strategy is not the right way to go. If they're identifying that, though, if they're saying, okay, we believe in past lives, we love that the reception, we love the energy, we love that it stayed around so long. We are going for the zone of interest because we believe in it. It's an Oscars bait, quote unquote,
Mhm.
type film. What, like, why? You're right. Why are we leaving out the Iron Claw? Like, if we're spreading our resources, why are we not doing anything about this? The reception for the Iron Claw, I do think, is much, much stronger than anybody anticipated.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Zac Efron. And I mean, other movies, other studios, they are starting the FYC ads for your consideration. They're putting out the posters that are saying, you know, best supporting actor or best original score or whatever they want it to say. It just feels like the Iron Claw is like only word of mouth right now and
Mhm.
no A24 support, which I think is a little odd, to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I'm curious if it's like a form of just feeling defeated, like when you're up against the latest Scorsese and
Sure, sure.
Oppenheimer. It's just like, what
Is it
chance do
worth
we
it?
really have? Like, how much money do we want to throw at this? Maybe not for Best Picture, but I do think there are other nominations like Greta Lee for Best Actress and Zac Efron Best Actor. I think there are places that they could be throwing their money and at least get some attention to the brand because I feel like there's a very good case for them to have three movies in the Best Picture race
Mm-hmm.
between Past Lives, Zone of Interest, and Iron Claw. That'd be huge to have like 30% of the best pictures be coming from one studio. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
big, and especially a studio like this. So I think they should be giving it more attention. I'm curious why they're not, but I'm hopeful still that when the nominations come out, we see a lot of A24 represented on there.
They were putting out very, very strong FYC ads last year for everything
Hmm.
everywhere. Individual like pullouts and posters and all sorts of things for everything everywhere. And I know we keep referencing that, and it is sort of an outlier in terms of like
Yeah.
how much steam that actually garnered and had.
Hmm.
But you talk about like a dark horse movie. I I know I mentioned on the Iron Claw pod like the Iron Claw is not in the Best Picture race. I just don't. It just doesn't seem like it. You said it. Scorsese. You've got Jonathan Glazer. You've got Greta Gerwig. You have Christopher Nolan. All of these very impactful, massive movies,
Yeah.
and the Iron Claw just doesn't feel like it matches up to that. But the more that I think about it personally, the more I feel like it has a shot. And I wonder if A24 puts a little bit of a push behind it in the next few weeks. Can you make something happen, especially when it's coming to Zac Efron? Is it noteworthy to be nominated even though you know it's a losing race? I think is really the crux of the issue here because
Yeah.
the best actor nom, is it worth it for Zac Efron to be nominated for an A24, distributed film when we're all pretty sure Killian's going to take it? I don't know. I do think that's a battle that they're facing and trying to figure out. Past Lives, is it still a Best Picture nomination in your eyes?
I think so. I think it's still there. I think you could fill out the top four, maybe five pretty easily, but I feel like that bottom half is pretty wide open.
Yeah,
Those top 10 best
I do.
pictures. So, yeah, for me, both in my heart and in my head, Past Lives is still there. One of those 10 nominations for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So that would be a nominate. That would be one Best Picture nomination for A24. We move to the zone of interest. We mentioned that it's really only playing in New York and LA. It did play
Mhm.
at New York. It did play at other film festivals. It is still a very limited release. What do you think? What's the strategy behind this? Is it a limited, like not everybody can see it? Let's build up the hype so when people do see it, they get on the hype train, or like I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
I don't know. I guess they just put faith in the critics, and the people that are able to see it and able to get the word out there because it's another movie where I don't know that I've read a negative review about it. I'm sure there's some that are out there, but for the most part,
Yeah.
people just talk about, how powerful the film is. And I think that's huge. And I think the small word of mouth that it has right now has, I don't know, it's made a big impact. And it's just like, if you guys could multiply this and like let more people see it, there's a chance that the word of mouth would be even bigger. Like, get it out there.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second?
I love it.
Because
why does Oppenheimer suck? Tell me.
Absolutely not the route that I'm going. Not even close. I just wonder with the zone of interest, and this is my devil's advocate take here. It worries me. I guess if you're coming at it from a negative perspective, it worries me that it is still in a limited release and that they've stuck to that limited release for so long, and it's been talked about for so long, because you look at a lot of other Best Picture potential nominees.
Yeah.
Obviously, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie, these movies have been out for a long time. Even movies, though, like The Color Purple is now out in wide availability. Anatomy of a Fall, another international film that did play the festivals, that has been quite widely available for some time now. I get worried that once the mass public sees the zone of interest, not enough people are on the Jonathan Glazer level to understand / respect / want to nominate this kind of a film. And I wonder if they're holding out to try to get as close as they can to these shortlist releases, so they might avoid a very public, I don't know, modern day film Twitter take on the zone of interest.
Yeah, that's possible. I guess, it's hard to argue with that, but maybe they're just happy with the fact that it's in, a foreign language film. There's like, that's good enough. I don't know. It's so many of these decisions. I'm just like, I'm dumbfounded by them, because it feels like the obvious answer is there. Like, get it out there, get it wide.
Yeah.
The reception has been good so far. Like, yeah, maybe there's a chance that it gets perceived differently by film Twitter or whatever, but I think that's also a bubble in and of itself that we found sometimes, where people can be just really like hot takes on a movie, and then it goes wide. It's like, oh wait, no one else feels this way. That's really weird. Like, we all thought this certain thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. It feels like the chances are dwindling of it becoming the Best Picture nomination for sure. I'm very curious to hear what Clayton has to say about it.
I agree. And just so I'm clear, I loved The Zone of Interest. I thought it was quite a masterwork from Glazer. And that's someone that you talk about like reevaluating, reassessing takes on the pod. I know Under the Skin is something we've revisited in the library. It's not like a 2023 film, but I have completely flipped on Glazer, on Under the Skin, The Zone of Interest, and really have changed how I think about that. So this is all very interesting to me, and I know we're going to talk more Oscars in the coming weeks. This is my last Oscars kind of question here. So, if one movie outside of Past Lives, outside of The Zone of Interest, and I'm going to put on there outside of The Iron Claw, because both of us do feel like The Iron Claw deserves some Oscar nominations, some recognition, even potentially a Best Picture spot. Outside of those three, if you had to choose what goes either Best Picture nom or Best Actor nom or something from the A24 catalog this year?
Man, the one I would pick, we already know didn't make the short list, and it'd be Priscilla for hair and makeup. Like, I think that one, there's some great production there. I think Kaylee Spaney was fantastic. That's a movie I wish could get a little bit more attention. And unfortunately it's missed out on some of the short list already, but it's something I still have hope for sure, would be Priscilla.
That also would have been my answer. I think a travesty that it didn't make makeup and hair styling. I just don't, I do not understand that quite at all. My very unserious answer is that the Academy should make a new category, and it should be called Best Dance Scene, because this year, in movies alone, like just generally, broadly, so many good, important, fantastic dance scenes in clubs or like what have you. And Thinking of After Sun last year could have made this category.
After Yang too.
After Yang, yes. I'm going to nominate Sharper. You mentioned it for best dance scene with Sebastian Stan and Julianne Moore, just two very hot people listening to a good song, committing crimes and having a ball.
It's the way to go. Yeah, it could be back-to-back champs for sure.
We could do it. If we were a great society, this is what we would have at the Academy Awards. Totally subjective categories. Okay, very interesting year for A24. We are here to make a top 5 list, though.
Yes, we
are. This is the brass tacks. This is the meat of the episode here. This is what we've decided. Since we are not covering the zone of interest that we are going to be covering now to finish out the year, we have not revealed our list to each other. And I know as a listener, you may be thinking, and I get it. Like, we talk every week. We share our opinions on all these A24 movies every week. From my viewpoint, you're a wild choice here, Ben. I have no idea what to expect. I have no clue what's going to make your list. I think you bring the chaos, and I appreciate that, and that's why I'm so excited for this.
I appreciate that as well. I'm predicting that we have 2 movies that crossover.
In the same spots or not in the same spots?
Not in the same spots. And that's the over. Like I'd safely bet 1, but I'm like, we might have 2. 1. But you're right. I just think there's no way that we have more than that crossover. But we'll see. And I guess we'll dig into it now. I'm amazed at like what I had to leave off of here, even as we talk about this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Do you want to kick us off with number 5?
I don't want to.
I feel like you need to get this off your chest. You need to start the process of healing.
I do feel like I need to, unfortunately. My 5 is hard because I have like 3 things that I'm debating between here.
Oh, I'm so interested. See what I mean? It's a wild card. I don't know what's coming.
Oh, I want you to go first so bad. Okay.
Never.
At number 5. Damn, dude.
Well, what's your thought process here? Walk me through.
There's a movie that I think is better.
Okay.
But there's a movie that had more of an impact on me.
Oh, tough. The head and the heart.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah. So, and this is like, the other 4 feel pretty locked in for me. Like nothing's going to take those spots. Like,
okay. So it's a 5-spot debate.
It's a 5-spot. The rest of these, I'm ready to just like read them off. But 5, I'm just like, oh, is it this? Is it that? Is it whatever? But I'm going to go with my head on this one actually, because a lot of these are my heart.
Oh.
And I'm going to go with Priscilla. We just talked about it. Really, really enjoyed this film. Listeners of this pod will know just how much I loved Elvis last year. So this was a fantastic sequel of sorts for me for the next year.
Sequel but again, in soul, right?
Haley Spaney just gave such a wonderful performance. I don't know that it's in the cards for her to get nominated, but I would love it because I think she did a great job. Jacob Elordi was wonderful, doing a very different Elvis than Austin Butler did. But his was a very powerful performance as well. I love Coppola's style. I love her production design. I love how she tells a story, how we stick with Priscilla so much and experience the day-to-day, the mundane day-to-day stuff that happens when you're married to a superstar, and you don't necessarily, like, we get to see Vegas, we get to see the fun stuff, but we also just get to see like sitting around the house and what do we do? Like, is there a book in the house? I don't know. It's like, there's like not much to do here. And how does that affect your being and who you are? I just think it was a very, very powerful story. I had a great time with that movie, and Sofia Coppola, for the most part, I haven't seen everything she's done, but so far I've enjoyed everything I've seen. So she's batting 1,000 for me. Yeah.
I do feel like Priscilla generally like underrated this year. I will give a shout out to Dagmara Dominizik, I believe. She's from Succession, and she's in this movie. She plays Carolina in Succession. She's great. And as soon as I saw her pop up, I was like, let's go, girls. We did it. So that's exciting. I like that you picked Priscilla. Like I said, I just like wasn't in the right headspace for it. Maybe it's just a personal thing.
That's okay.
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was like great though. Jacob Elordi, tall guy.
Very tall guy.
Very tall guy.
Very tall guy in Saltburn. Yep. Tall dude.
Super tall. So many times in Saltburn where I was just like, Barry Keoghan, short guy.
Short
Jacob
guy.
Elordi, tall guy.
Short king, but packing heat for sure.
Short hung king. That's my guy. Okay, so number 5, Priscilla. I feel like I'm in a similar boat with you with this number 5 because there are a few movies that are pretty much locks that I think might not come as a surprise to a lot of people, but of course we'll hash them out. We'll talk about it. But this 5 spot could go to a few things. But I feel like I'm going to choose maybe the more chaotic pick that I feel is more fun. And it's not a movie that, again, I necessarily loved. It's not a movie that's making my like top 10, maybe even top 20 of 2023, but it is a movie that I respect and took a lot of balls, literally, to make it, and it's Beau is Afraid. I'm going with Beau is Afraid at number 5. There are just certain things in this movie that I think about where I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's pretty audacious. Or like, yeah, that's very Ari Aster like core. Or wow, that's quite a scene. And like I can understand what we were going for there, and I get what we were grasping at. The Parker Posey of it all is pretty unbeatable. Nathan Lane just firing off some great one-liners. I think there's a lot of individual things I like and I appreciate about Beau is Afraid. And to your point, I'm very curious to revisit it and see how I feel as kind of a connective work of art. And there's a massive CGI dick. Let's put respect where it's due, people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had me at Parker Posey. Yeah, this movie, again, like it wasn't bad. I wasn't ready for what it was, and that's totally on me. But I'm glad to see it represented here. I feel like it'd be a weird top 5 list of A24 movies if neither of us had it here. So I think it's a good call.
I agree. I think Ari Aster next slated to do a neo-noir Western with Joaquin Phoenix, if I'm remembering correctly.
That sounds right.
Beau is Afraid was really his pivot, and he was like, I'm not getting caught in the horror gears here.
Which is just so interesting to me because I feel like he was 2 for 2. He crushed those first 2. You know what I mean?
He was.
Yeah, he was. But if he doesn't want to get pigeonholed, I don't blame him. You know,
very fascinating career as a filmmaker.
I like it. I'm ready for the Ari Aster rom-com. Let's see it.
Let's go.
Number 4 for me is the most recent film that we've talked about, which is The Iron Claw. I really loved this movie. I think the story of the Von Erichs is so interesting. It's been eye-opening, I guess, to see some people's response to like the erasure of one of the brothers on here, but it's just like, it's a movie, man. You know what I mean? Like you can't like, and I think to the point, Sean Durkin said like, it was just too depressing to have 5 brothers die. You know, it's like, let's not focus on every single brother that died. They kind of, put them all together, made an amalgamation of the youngest brother being the youngest 2 brothers from the actual Von Erichs. But aside from that, amazing performances. Harris Dickinson was fantastic. We all kind of gave our props when we had Liam on here, to Harris and to Jeremy Allen White and obviously Zac Efron. They all just did wonderful. And then as dad, Holt McElhenney, who people, might recognize from, a lot of Fincher movies, but, also Mindhunter, stuff like that, like fantastic actor. He did a wonderful job here too. So I loved this film. There is one other movie on my list that made me cry harder, maybe 2, but it's like the ending of this film just really, really got me. And I had seen it done like by the actual brother. I had seen that phrase and I was like, and it hit me then, but watching Efron say it for some reason just like ripped my heart out. I was like, oh my God, it's so good. Like it's such a great performance. So he does a great job. Everyone in there is doing, I think, fantastic work. So yeah, Lily James, she's great in it. Maura Tierney, wonderful job. And yeah, this is my 4th favorite A24 release of the year.
So I think it's an interesting year for and coming off of watching Maestro just a couple of hours ago. I think this is kind of at the forefront of my mind. Totally different conversation. That word we don't really need to cover here on this show. think it's a really interesting year for understanding and maybe coming to grips with like a movie is and can be and might choose to be a subset of the story.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to cover everything. And I think to Sean Durkin's point, I think that's quite astute of like, it was just too much heartbreak that this movie wasn't ready to carry and like wasn't ready to do. And I think it's an interesting in the context of Maestro, because that movie does gloss over large swaths of Bernstein's life. And so I think that's something interesting that this film can like bring about of like, it's okay to understand that a movie is just that, and it is just the story that's being told. It doesn't need to encapsulate every minute detail of what might be reality or might not be. This is our first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, like, it's an interesting argument that we talk about a lot because it's the same with any narrative piece. We're just looking at the interpretation of the director. That's what we're doing here, and the writer. Nothing's gonna be told. They're not documentaries. Even documentaries leave stuff out, and it's a hard thing to hear when people say, you know, like, oh, well, this it left this out, it left that out. And I, again, like, admit my hypocrisy in that, because that was my problem with Killers of the Flower Moon, where it's just like the part of the story decided to tell bothered me. I knew we weren't going to be able to tell everything, but like the stuff that was chosen was like, oh, it was frustrating for me. But at the same time, I get that, like, that's just, it's not a thing that's going to happen. We saw Scorsese's take on it. And, you know, it's a good film. So this is Iron Claw. While it does leave stuff out, I think it hits home the core of the story here.
This is our first overlap. I feel like since we're talking about the Iron Claw, it's only appropriate that I reveal the location of the Iron Claw.
Okay.
Is that, should we do it that way?
Yeah, let's do that for sure.
Okay. Sounds good. So I do have the Iron Claw at number 2.
Oh,
which is high. Is high. I realize that, and I understand we're just coming off of the Iron Claw. I've seen it twice in the last couple of weeks. Very, very personal connection to this movie. I broke it down on the Iron Claw pod, but I think that kind of final scene, and one of the final scenes going to this better place, that I've just never quite cried like that, felt like that, experienced a moment like that on screen before. And so, you know, the rest of the film aside, I will forever have that very special connection to this movie.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a wrestling guy, even though like I like give or take Zac Efron, like I don't have like that where I'm like, oh, I was so ingrained in the Von Erich story. Like, this is so cool to see it on the big screen. I don't have that, but I do have another personal connection. There is one thing about the Iron Claw that I want to call out, and I have been just thinking about this movie a lot, and it's some of the very smart and impressive like juxtapositioned scenes with one another. One specifically that I caught on the second watch was when Zac Efron's character and Lily James' character, they basically they have sex in his truck, and this big elation of like this new era of life and love and joy directly cut to the black and white overhead shot of a wrestling ring, and the despair that place carries for Kevin Von Erich. Yeah. I think there's a lot of really smart choices in this movie. And it is one of my top 10 of the year entirely from nearly the 100 releases I've seen in 2023. Nice. So I don't think number 2 is really out of place here. And I feel confident that I will keep that, and really it'll be a movie that sticks. And I loved it.
I think that's great. I'm curious how many of my top 5 would make it in my overall top 10. I feel like
for the year,
a few of them will. 10 for the year for sure. Okay. There's a lot of good stuff here.
We'll probably be talking about that a bit on the movie draft pod here in a few weeks.
I think we might.
That's my guess.
Do you want to give your number 4 now?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give my number 4. We'll see. Let's see if we have any crossover.
Yeah.
I'm kind of go by the wind underneath our sails.
Let's
on
do
this
it.
one. Number 4 is a movie that I had never seen before. Something that I chose not to associate with until I had the opportunity to see it in the theater. And that is the 4K restoration and remastering and re-release of Stop Making Sense. The Talking Heads concert, David Byrne. This was really my first introduction to the Talking Heads, to David Byrne, to the big suit, all of these very iconic pop culture things that have kind of taken hold over things over the last 30 years. And I remember seeing it in IMAX and just being like, we used to like do cool shit. We used to like make some really fun stuff.
Yeah.
And especially like the lamppost, kind of scene and then the number. Stop Making Sense fucking rules. And like, I just don't know if there's a more succinct way to say it.
From the director of Silence of the Lambs, Jonathan Demme. I mean, kind of crazy. It's the same dude. I think this is really fun. Both of our number 4s are the other person's number 2.
Wow.
Because that's
Look
where
at that.
Stop
Look at
Making
us.
Sense falls for me. This was the second most impactful movie going experience for me this year, for sure. I had seen this before, but seeing it on the big screen in IMAX was just a sight to behold. It's a whole new experience. I felt like my body was moving the whole time.
Yeah.
I wasn't like the Taylor Swift Eras fans that were out there actually like dancing and stuff like that. Yeah. I wasn't doing that, but I had a smile on my face. I think the entire movie, like, it was just so fun to watch, from the oversized coat to the very beginning where we bring out band members one at a time, and it's like we do different songs with each member. Like you said, the lamp dance is a wonderful piece here. I loved it. It was my most fun movie watching experience of the year, without a doubt. And I think for me, that's why it bumped all the way up to number 2.
Yeah. I very much awaiting the physical release of this, because I would love to just kind of put it on in the background of my house and have my children watch it. And they've seen some of the YouTube videos and they jive with it. So I'm looking forward to having it in my house whenever. I'm curious. I don't know if you know. I wonder if you can rent it on the A24 app.
Ooh, I don't know. That'd be sweet.
That might be something that's out there. Yeah, Stop Making Sense. Just a good time. Just a good fucking time at the movies.
Love it.
Okay, why don't you go with your number 3?
My number 3.
I just went with mine.
Yeah, for sure. My number 3 is going to be Lucas Stone's Close, which we talked about at the beginning of the year. This was, again, it's one of those that falls into a weird time frame because it got limited release in 2022, which is why it was qualified for the Oscars last year, but it went wide in January of 2023, which I believe is when we covered it. And we had a guest on for that, and my heart was broken. We've talked about it on here before, but it's just like, I had to wait. You guys had to wait for me for like, I don't know how long, just to gather myself to come back on and talk about it. But I loved it. Jessica, thank you in a way for picking that, but also just like, oh my God, broke my heart. So I loved that film, and it just, I don't know, it's one of those that affected me personally. I was able to relate to the story a lot closer than I thought I was. And I don't know. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it a lot. I know it doesn't necessarily work on everyone the same way, and that's understandable, because I think there is something to be said for people's personal experience. Like, as you mentioned with the Iron Claw, like sometimes you relate to something very personally, and that's just going to take it to a whole nother level that it won't for someone else. So for me, this is my number 3. This has probably affected me the most. I'm curious if I had seen this in theaters, how high it would be, because that is the difference between my number 2 and number 1, is that I saw this at home, and the other 2 I saw in theaters, which maybe gave it more of an impact for my rankings. But yeah, number 3, Close.
I think outside of this, there's really only one other movie that I'm aware that we had maybe a wider gap in our reception of the movie. That first movie is Medusa Deluxe. I gave it a D plus. You gave it a B minus.
Okay.
This, we didn't really change too much our ratings. I gave it a B. You gave it an A. But I do know I was a lot less kind of hyped on this movie than you were.
Mhm.
I'm glad that I watched it. I do think it's an impactful movie, and it does tell an important story. It, I don't know. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And like, it might have been that, I was just too heartbroken over other movies. So another one of heartbreak was just a tough
Yeah,
sit. I
for
don't
sure.
know. Could have been. I will say that's not on my list. My number 3 is a movie that we mentioned that is still in limited release. It's not out yet. You have not had the chance to see it. Is The Zone of Interest.
Mhm.
This movie is easily the most realistically unsettling experience I've had in a cinema, probably ever. Outside of the fact that like I will remember seeing this because I did see it at the New York Film Festival, and I did see it, sitting a few seats away from a critic that like I've followed for a long time and got the chance to talk to, and like these other outside connections that like are surrounding this film. I think The Zone of Interest is a fascinating story, not just in like what it's actually telling, but again, like this director's interpretation of the source material and like how do they see it and what makes the story and what doesn't. Probably one of the wildest, like shaking, core shaking final 10 minutes of a movie this year, I would say. So I don't want to talk about it too much more. I know a lot of people haven't had the chance to see this, but when it does go wide, or when you do have the chance to see it, I highly recommend it. I think it's a pretty master class exercise in a telling of not only the most haunting and devastating period of history, of world history, but technical movie making and like sound and camera movement and performance. All of these things work together. And I do think it will be a Best Picture nomination. And I do think it'll be a Best International nomination. So I think that'll be a really interesting conversation, an interesting race.
Nice.
That's my number 3. We're about down to our number 1, and I'm going to take a guess that it's the same number 1.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we ended up, if this is the same number 1, that we ended up with 3 crossovers. I think I didn't expect Stop Making Sense to make your list.
Oh, okay.
That's the one. I figured we probably had Iron Claw, and I'm assuming both of our number 1s is Past Lives.
Oh, no, it is Dix the Musical.
Dix the Musical.
Actually.
Okay, I should have expected that.
You should have known. No, I'm just
that's
kidding.
what it was.
It is in fact Past Lives.
Yeah, I didn't know how much Stop Making Sense resonated with you for the whole year. Because I know you were able to see a few things I wasn't, like Dream Scenario, and not necessarily the Dix Musical was going to make it, but I just knew there's some other things on there.
I think when I think about it, like Stop Making Sense, if someone, this is how I try to like put it in my head. If someone were to like come up to me and be like, you have no responsibilities today. You don't have work. You don't have to hang. You don't have to watch your kids. You don't have to do anything. You also have a free movie, and we can put on whatever you want out of the 2023 the A24 catalog. Would you rather watch Priscilla? Would you rather watch Dix the Musical? Would you rather watch any of these movies? I think Stop Making Sense like really rises to the top just because it is such a fun, easy, enjoyable thing to go experience. It is much different than trying to do, like You Hurt My Feelings, right on the bubble for me of a top 5. But I'd probably still pick Stop Making Sense just because it is so much fun.
All right, I like it. Well, Past Lives, man. Jesus, what do you say? What a movie. I don't know what you say. I tell these people to go back and listen to our episode because otherwise we're going to talk about it for another hour. I love this film. It's my favorite movie of the year. It's
number 1
of the whole year
overall.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I went back through my letterbox and all my 5 stars, which I didn't give a ton, but this is number 1 on there, is Past Lives. I love this movie. I thought it was beautiful. I think the script is amazing. We got our sad boy, John Magaro, just, repping A24 sad boys all over the place.
He's putting in the work.
Right? Like
this is episode 96 for us if people are interested.
Yeah, go check that out.
I think John Magaro is not that far outside the supporting actor nomination list. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, probably not for me. For us, definitely not. You know, I'm curious to see where he would fall. But Greta Lee, wonderful job. I would love to see her get recognized for her performance in here.
Are you gonna
but
cry
again,
then? Are you gonna cry right now on the show?
No, I was gonna burp of all things. But Greta Lee, she's wonderful here, and I think is a very powerful performance. But I think Best Actress is pretty stacked. But I hope she gets some love for this performance. Teo Yo did a great job as well. He's wonderful, and we talk about it all the time, but like A24 does a great job with these directorial debuts, and this is another one where it's just like they knocked it out of the park. So Celine Song, beautiful film. I'm very excited to see what she follows up with.
I believe it's another A24.
Is it with A24
film that she is slated to do? Yeah,
nice. I'm very excited about that. So yeah, Past Lives #1 with a bullet for sure. Again, screen drafts. If you want us to come talk about A24 directorial debuts, let us know. I think this would make the list without a doubt.
Yeah, 100%. I echo everything you said. Yeah, it looks like her next movie is going to be titled The Materialists.
Okay.
I don't have any more information because you stopped talking and I was looking it up, and I can't talk and look things up at the same time. But yeah, so that's exciting. I think for me, it is my number 2 movie of the year, kind of sandwiched between Oppie at #1 and Killers of the Flower Moon at 3. So I think it speaks a lot that it finds its way into these much big, very juicy movies that contain a very dense subject matter. The way that I know that it is my favorite A24 movie of the year, outside of the fact that I saw it twice in the theater and that I think about it often, and it does carry very big pings of like Everything Everywhere and these La La Land and these movies that resonate with me, is that I have put off rewatching this movie, obviously in hopes that it'll be a Best Picture nomination and we can cover it on the show. But because I know when I do fire it up, I am so shut off from the rest of the world, and I'm so encapsulated in every single second that this film is on, and what it's saying and what it's doing and the impact that it will have on me by the time that we get to the end, and we're just like, maybe we're someone to each other in another life already. Yeah. And I'm just like, what? Like, fuck this. That's how I know how it's so good, because I get scared to rewatch it because it is that heartbreak that is just like, I have to be ready for this, and most times I'm just not ready for it.
No, I mean, I'm with you. There's so many scenes here, and we're going to talk about some of them in a little bit, but so many scenes in this film that just still stick with me. So many lines, even just the beginning where we just see them all at the bar together, and people trying to guess how they all are connected. Like, it starts powerfully.
One of the smartest like fourth wall breaks.
Yeah,
in,
for sure.
in recent history, for sure, in movies.
Yeah, loved it.
Really sublime film. I really, really, really hope that we get to cover it as a Best Picture nominee and kind of get to revisit it. Okay, so mine, number 5, Beau's Afraid. Number 4, Stop Making Sense. Number 3, The Zone of Interest. Number 2, The Iron Claw. Number 1, Past Lives. Do you want to say your 5 real quick?
Yeah, 5 is Priscilla. 4 is The Iron Claw. 3 is Close. 2, Stop Making Sense. And number 1, Past Lives.
Cool. All right, we had 3 overlap. I had a feeling that we were going to get up there at least with Past Lives and The Iron Claw. I knew that those two were kind of locks. So those are our top 5 A24 projects of the year. We did not, however, talk about The Curse, the show we've been covering here on the show. We'll kind of cover the episodes 6 through 10 at the end of Oscar season in April. And we didn't talk about The Idol, a show that you vehemently refused to come on the show to even talk about. You sent your partner in your stead.
I'm so grateful for her. So eternally grateful for her. We covered the first episode. I think I was here to talk about that.
Yeah, you were.
And then you guys did the season recap, and luckily my partner Ashley was more than kind enough to come take my place.
Were we wrong about The Idol? Is it good? You think it's good?
No, I don't at all. Like I
Did you
don't
even
know.
finish watching it?
No, of course not. That's why I couldn't
Oh
come
my
talk about
God.
it. I could not even finish the show.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. That's fine. Another conversation for another time.
Yeah.
Divine Joy Randolph. I mean, we're going to be talking about her Oscar season.
I'm excited about that.
There's our idol shoo-in right there. Okay. Favorite A24 performance of the year. This is going to be our first A1 act here. I have a short list of things that I felt deserved to be on this very long short list. And I consciously made the decision not to do like A24 awards or like kind of make this an awards thing. I think that we kind of did at the end of last year, just because we are going into Oscar season. We're going to be talking about awards a lot. So I thought this was a more kind of a more fun way to go about this. So here's what I've got on the short list for the favorite A24 performance of the year. Eden Dambrine, who plays Leo in Close, the main child. Sebastian Stan as Max in Sharper. I told you, Sharper is not going away.
Got to bring it back.
Here to stay, baby. Michelle Williams as Lizzie in Showing Up. Joaquin Phoenix as Beau in Beau is Afraid. Nathan Lane Parker Posey as Elaine Bray in Beau is Afraid. Nathan Lane as Roger in Beau is Afraid. Nathan Lane as Harris in Dix the Musical. Greta Lee as Nora in Past Lives. John Magaro as Arthur in Past Lives. Sophia Wilde, who plays Mia in Talk to Me. Kaylee Spaney as Priscilla in Priscilla. Nick Cage as Paul Matthews in Dream Scenario. Sandra Hüller as Hedwig Haas in The Zone of Interest. And Zac Efron as Kevin Von Erich in The Iron Claw. That's what I felt like deserved to make the very long shortlist that I've created here. Is there anything that you think I left off?
Not for me. I mean, this is a great recap of the year and some of the stronger performances that we got from A24 for sure.
Yeah, totally. To the point of like Beau is Afraid, I never don't think about that movie and think about Nathan Lane saying, "Scared of going home, Beau?" It's just like, I don't know, pretty synonymous. I thought it was pretty good.
My dude, yeah,
my brother.
On the, my brother. For me, there's so many great performances here, but for a lot of reasons, I have to give it to Eden Dambrine from Close. Mainly because this was his first performance. Like, he's just a kid. Like, he's not an actor. They just found him and the other lead as well. And I thought he just gave such a great performance, obviously enough to bring me to tears. And I think it's just tough to do on, a debut and at that age. So there's so many, I could give my top 5 performances for sure, but Eden would be my number 1.
Yeah, definitely agree on the top 5. I titled this favorite because I did want to go with favorite. I didn't want to go with best.
Okay.
So I think the best A24 performance is Zac Efron in The Iron Claw. And I think very specifically, for the reasons of like the final 20 minutes of the film, my personal favorite is in fact John Magaro as Arthur in Past Lives. I just think, the things that he says and his basically his efficiency on screen is kind of through the roof, to be honest. And he encapsulates, I don't think Past Lives works without John Magaro being like the linchpin of understanding how those timelines and potential timelines intersect and cross each other. John Magaro has to be there and has to give the performance that he does. He also just like respect for being like, what are you hungry for? I want some chicken wings. And it's like, all right, cool, man. Love that you want that. That's great for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. John Magaro.
John Magaro, sad boy. Okay, next A1 act. Favorite A24 scene of the year. Again, not the best, but our favorite. Here's what I got on the short list. A shorter short list, if you will. Max and Madeline dancing in the bar in Sharper. We talked about this.
Dirty laundry, baby.
I just think like 2 hot people dancing to good music in a bar is pretty unreplaceable. The movie's got a lot of problems, but it's also kind of fun the more that I talk about it. So there's that. The forest story in Beau is Afraid, really where things start to take off / fall apart / I don't know, whatever other superlative you want to put in here for Beau is Afraid. The final song, Love is Love, in Dix the Musical. A moment that I don't know if I've ever felt quite as uncomfortable watching. And, they went for it. and I respect that. And go them for that. The bedroom conversation in past lives. I didn't want to mention this when I talked about John Magaro, but I think this is one of the best movie scenes of the year, quite honestly, because this idea to put into words this idea of like so many cross sections of life and a relationship. The fact that he says like you dream in a language I can't understand. That simple sentence works on like 7 different levels.
Yeah,
which is insane.
Yeah.
Shout out Celine Song for making a fucking kick-ass movie. The final scene in Past Lives, the Le Monde, the hand montage in Talk to Me. I think we both felt pretty similar when we saw the scene. We were like, that is how you make a cool montage.
That is a montage. Yep, without a doubt.
The lamp dance, stop making sense. I put sexual fart here for dream scenario.
Okay.
Because that is the scene in which Nick Cage is basically being getting ready to have sex with this person, and then he farts. And I gotta be honest, that stuff doesn't work for me, but that worked for me.
That worked for you? You like the Nick Cage fart?
I do. Nick Cage farts. Big
I still
win.
need to see Dream Scenario. I'm bummed I haven't watched it yet.
It was good. I obviously, I don't want to spoil too much, but it was good. The ending sequence of The Zone of Interest, I briefly talked about, and A Better Place in the Iron Claw.
Yeah.
This is my short list here. Any big omissions that you're feeling?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, mine was here for sure, so I knew this list was pretty concise, but I think it captures a lot of the great stuff that we saw. I
did it. I went 2 for 2 on capturing. You didn't go off list.
No, I mean,
how off brand to finish out the year? I cannot
think of anything that I would add to this. Like my top 3 are definitely here for sure. So yeah, I love it.
Okay. What is your favorite scene of the year?
It's from what I was debating to be my other number 5, my top 5.
Oh, you didn't even tell. You didn't even tell us what you were debating.
Well, I'll tell you right now.
You tried to skirt around it.
I know I did. It was from Talk to Me.
Wow, I love that.
The hand montage was some of the cool stuff that I saw on screen this year. I love Talk to Me. I thought it was such a good movie. And that was my heart pick because I had such a great time there. But I just felt like Priscilla. I wanted to talk about Priscilla a little bit more. So, but the hand montage, Le Monde, that remix of Edith Piaf is perfect. I think it ended up on my Spotify Wrapped because I listened to it so much, along with Dirty Laundry. So A24 had some good representation on there. But yeah, I love it. I thought that movie was great, and that scene is, like you said, it's how you do a montage, just like that.
Yeah, it really is. Have you used that hand? Either to summon souls or to
smoke out of?
Yeah, do any recreational activity.
Yeah, it's got it some wear and tear for sure.
Putting in the work, making that hand get to work. I think for my favorite scene of the year, look, I'm going to be lame. I am going to go with the bedroom conversation. I kind of gave that away. Kind of gave my hand away there, if you will. That was pretty good.
That was good.
I think it is one of the most beautiful, impactful scenes of the year, not just in the A24 library, but I think in general in movies. Number 2 would probably be the hand montage in Talk to Me. So I'm right there with you. I remember watching that, just being like, this is how you fucking do it. Like, this is sick. And there's a really cool video out there. You sent it to me one time of the guys, the makers of the movie, getting the call that A24 bought their film out of Sundance.
Yeah.
Sick movie. If you're looking for a little background on this, very, very cool success story about an original horror film.
Yeah, so good. I like that our top 2 are from the same movie because mine would be the final scene from Past Lives.
Nice.
Walking him to the taxi and then just that tracking shot that we get going back home. Love it.
Oh boy. That's we better not fire up that movie recreationally anytime soon.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's 2023 of A24 kind of wrapped or very sporadic thoughts here and there about lots of projects that A24 put out. 21 movies. How are you feeling about 2024 going in for A24?
I think we got to do something special. I mean, it's A24 in 2024. We got to make this year pretty special. So I'm excited about it. I feel like there's something we have no idea even exists yet that's going to be in our top fives at the end of next year. And I can't wait to find out what that is.
Yeah, I do think that is going to be the case. So far that we know Love Lies Bleeding is coming out. That's going to be a Sundance movie that's slated for a March release. And Civil War, April 26th, the new film from Alex Garland. Those are the only two dated films that A24 has right now in 2024. I will say, and we've talked about this on the show before, movies like I Saw the TV Glow, Janet Planet, and Problemista. These movies they're out. The people have seen these movies either at festivals or special screenings. A24 just hasn't put them out yet, and I don't know what's going on with that. We've got an Eggers brother movie slated maybe 2024. Ty West, Maxine, 2024 supposedly. Yep. Lots of cool stuff. Honestly, I think 2024 is going to be special, and we got to figure out how to do it. Like you said, A24 2024, got to put it together.
And we got Helena Rain from Bodies Bodies putting out Baby Girl, which has a pretty awesome cast. Nicole Kidman, Harris Dickinson. We just saw him in the Iron Claw.
Oh, that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, isn't that movie about Nicole Kidman cheating on her husband with Harris Dickinson?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, right. We did it.
Her husband, who is Antonio Banderas, I believe.
Sophia Wilde's in that movie?
Sophia Wilde, Jean Reno. Yeah. So
2024. Coming up all A24.
Yeah, we got some good stuff coming up. So I'm stoked. It's gonna be a good year.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good year. I had a lot of fun potting about A24 this year for the past 9 months. The next 3 months, we're gonna be talking about Oscars, Academy Awards. We've got our very first episode coming out in just a few-ish days. By the time that this pod is released, I believe January 2nd is when our 3rd, is when our episode comes out. It's going to be our special Oscars preview conversation with Clayton Davis, the senior awards editor at Variety. I'm excited. I'm curious if any listeners have any specific questions for Clayton, want his insight on anything. Let us know. I'll try to float it out to him and see what he gives us. But I know Clayton will bring some hot takes, and I'm ready to battle. I'm ready to defend.
I can't wait. You got to defend Babylon, which honestly, I almost put on over the break. I almost put that on, but I didn't quite get
What the fuck is wrong? You didn't do it? Why didn't you do it, Ben?
We were told that we needed some calming stuff for our dog who just had surgery. So it's this did not seem like a calm movie to put on. But, the break's still on for a few days. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get around to it.
Fair take.
Yeah. But let us know what you guys thought of A24 in 2023. What did you think compared to last year? What are you looking forward to next year? I'm excited. I hope we get Wizards from David Michaud, who did one of my favorite movies ever, Animal Kingdom. I'm hoping we finally get to see that. That feels like it's been on the slate forever as well, though. So who knows what's going to come, but let us know what you guys think. We are at 24 minutes of A24 on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also find us on YouTube. You can watch us talk about this stuff. You can subscribe there, hit the bell,
shout out to the 200 people that's
200 subscribers now. Yeah, we hit 200. So
fucking go.
Help us on our path to 300. Maybe we'll watch Zack Snyder's movie as a celebration. Who knows?
Whoa,
we'll see.
Pretty good. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do when we get to 240? I feel like that's our first 24 milestone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe you'll watch Logan. I don't know. We'll see. We'll get around to it.
Oh man. Maybe we'll watch Babylon. How about that?
Maybe we'll watch Babylon. Maybe that's the time to revisit Beau is Afraid finally.
There we go. See. Watch along, baby.
Maybe that'd be it. But yeah, subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you everybody for your support. We appreciate it. We will see you in the new year. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.